makes me feel like a man.
You want every team to lose any other game? Sorry. Bailey Zappi just put another dime. You know what? Wait. Time out. Are you kidding? That's what I'm gonna try to drop a mic. Welcome to the Warner Brothas Podcast. I am Kyle, joined by my brother Keenan. Keenan, welcome back. Good to see you. I feel like it's been forever since we recorded. I think it's only been about a week and a half, but feels like
last time we talked, it was we had a kind of a two-parter. It was the second part was talking about Kendrick and Drake, which that aftermath has been listening to both songs before we get into like mostly basketball. Listening to both songs, The Family Matters and then Not Like Us, and obviously everything else they put out. It's really just a moment in time that I'm gonna have that we're gonna appreciate forever about like how great that 72-hour stretch, obviously with Family, 616, Family Matters, and Meet the Grams, and then Not Like Us. But obviously Push-Ups and Euphoria came before that. All started with Like That, which is a legendary verse and still going to become even more legendary because it brewed this beef. But just listening to all of it even more and more, I'm just so happy it happened. I'm just so happy that it actually occurred.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, you know, when Like That dropped, I assumed that we'd get a whole summer of this, and maybe we still will. Maybe it won't die down, but, you know, maybe I should have seen it coming with, like, you know, how advanced the world is and how quick everything moves now anyway, that it would probably end up this way, which was, you know, like you said, a 72-hour period of diss tracks, right? So, you know, it kind of came and went, but, I mean, honestly, that 72 hours felt like 72 days, you know, the way it just kept going back and forth and you didn't know what was coming, who was dropping next. So it really was a moment in time. I mean, part of me doesn't think it's over, though. I mean, you know, Kendrick's probably dropping an album. I would assume there's more shots there. You know, it's allegedly over. And they said, I forget who it was. Was it Top who released a statement talking about, hey, the beef's over. Glad they kept it on wax. Yeah, maybe they kept it on wax, but it was super disrespectful. That's stuff you can't really just like move past. So I don't think it's the end of it. I think this will be ongoing. You know, depending on how active Drake is in music going forward, I think it's going to be one of those things where they just continue to take shots at each other, you know, for damn near eternity. So we'll see how it goes.
Oh, yeah, no, they're absolutely taking shots at each other for probably the rest of their music career, unless they do what a Jay-Z and Nas and years later make up and can be on the same records again. But I mean, they weren't on the same records prior, so I don't assume that to happen. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what they said here crossed even more of a line than Jay-Z and Nas. You correct me if I'm wrong in saying that, because you know more in totality than I do.
It's about the same.
About the same,
I would say.
Okay.
And I mean, depending on how you feel about Drake, you know, that beef happened when they were like dead smack in the middle of their prime, Jay-Z and Nas. And then they made up while Jay-Z was retired, like around that time, I guess.
Yeah.
When it really started to they started to mend fences. And then, you know, when Jay really came back is when they really started to do music together here and there. So Drake seems like he's in the twilight of his career. And, you know, Kendrick, you just never know when or how often he's dropping, though it does seem like he's going to drop here before the end of the summer. So, you know, it is similar to that beef, though, that you mentioned, Jay-Z and Nas. It's very much similar to that. Difference being, though, like I said, it just feels like Drake's towards the end of his career, or at least a less serious part of his career, you know. So maybe there'll be shots at Kendrick with a Sexy Red and Ice Spice feature. You know, the way Drake's been going. So
with Drake, it's odd too, because the maturation of Drake is like, where does he go musically, which is really the kind of tough thing. Because a lot of obviously artists you'll see, like J. Cole, obviously he's taken younger J. Cole, but he, with the way he's like walked in life, he can kind of grow into this more mature J. Cole. The way Drake's gone, he still raps like a 24-year-old that's just partying all the time. Like, that's what his music is made for. And so, like, it's going to be interesting, like, how this next portion of his career is going to go. Because, like, obviously, as he gets compared to Jay-Z, obviously, for being, like, a pop star in the hip-hop community, because, like, have how big of artists that they are in that sense. But, like, Jay-Z was able to, family life, able to go from the young drug rap and all kind of talking to money, equity, and then family life. And Drake really doesn't have that. Like, he obviously has his kid, but he doesn't really have, like, the family life. He's still making records with Sexy Red kind of thing. So it's going to be interesting to see where this next 5 years, especially with with Kendrick kind of saying like, hey, he's like, you're not, maybe you're not pedophile, whatever, doesn't matter, but still putting that out there, like basically putting he works with a bunch of younger people. He's kind of around the younger female, whatever. So it's going to be interesting to see how Drake's next album sounds and how his next moves over the next couple of years is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect really to get into this, really, but
I wasn't either. But they were all,
with the Jay-Z comparison. I mean, it's funny you say pop because Jay really wasn't. I mean, I don't think Jay got his first #1 record until New York State of Mind or Empire State of Mind. So Jay wasn't really. He was more commercial than Nas because Nas is like, your favorite.
Commercial was a better word than pop. Commercial was a better word than pop. But
even then, I mean,
a big success.
Yeah, but even then, I mean, he wasn't really. It's not like he had the Sexy Reds of his time on his album or anything like that. So Jay's much different. But I mean, that's a big part of this beef. I mean, I don't know how much you're keeping up with like the Joe Budden podcast, but they do a good job of taking you under the hood because they got so many connections. Of course, Joe has his connections, but that's kind of been part of the genesis of this beef, and that's kind of what I was alluding to with Future, as far as like Future being able to put dope artists on his album and getting such and such artists like a Rick Ross to really like rap on his album. Yep. Whereas Drake, what they're alluding to is, hey, he's on tour this much. He's linking with artists like Sexy Red. His last album pandered very much to Gen Z rather than his generation. So, a lot of the talk going on with the artist is, like he's very much part of the machine to the point where he's not even trying to put out, music true to his heart. Maybe he might not even want to do music at this point. I don't know. But, we've talked about it a number of times that, I think since Scorpion, the music has gone gradually downhill, has less and less heart or soul in it. You know what I mean? Just sounds less and less genuine to him. So I agree with you. I'm very interested to see where his career goes because I think he truly took damage in a way he never has before. So, what Kendrick did, I think it will be to some degree detrimental to his career. He could put out unless he's coming out with something like Family Matters, which again, that's the best music I've heard from Drake in a couple years. Unless his next album sounds like that entirely, you're going to get a lot of people clowning Drake just off of what Kendrick did. No matter what, if his music's at all just anything like it's been, people are going to clown him for that. And people are just going to clown him because it's fun and cool to clown Drake now. Like Kendrick made it cool and fun to clown Drake again, the way it was, maybe pre-2014, 2015 for Drizzy. So, yeah, no, I agree with that. I'm definitely interested to see where his career goes and what the fan reception is and what the public perception is with his music. And supposedly he's dropping soon, which we would expect because Drake just puts out an obscene amount of music. But I'm very interested.
I have been keeping up Joe Budden podcast wise. I've been keeping up with like this beef because obviously they have more insight to things than I do on the inside. So like I have what I can read and see, but then obviously they have the insider trade in the sense because obviously Joe Budden's still well connected, as you said, with the music industry. So I have been keeping up via this beef specifically, and we'll definitely see where everything goes with Drake. But Kendrick was the guy who knocks Drake kind of off the throne. Like, because obviously you best rapper alive, whatever you wanted to say, but like Drake was always on like the rapper throne just because of like his streams and like how he was so needed to the rap music industry because of like what his name means and everything. But now you're right. People will clown him. he will get, if he puts out something bad, will just get the A minor line. Like that A minor line is going to follow him for a while. Not just that, but like that's just your quotable line from it.
If he puts anything less than fire out, if it's anything that's just like, people genuinely have tolerated shit from him. Like, I mentioned this at the beginning of the beef. His top, and this ain't necessarily his fault, but his top streaming song on Spotify right now is that Sexy Red and SZA song, which just means a lot of, 15 to or 13 to 22-year-olds. That's what they're listening to. Whatever.
Hands on your knees. Hands on your knees.
You're not going to find many Drake fans or many hip hop fans who that's their favorite song of Drake, No. So
it is dope how he flipped that though in Family Matters.
It was. No, that's an incredible song. That's my favorite. That's my favorite song from this entire beef. Like I love that song, but Kendrick more than won the beef for sure. So, but no, great song, fire song. Drake killed that shit, but yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And speaking of killed, the Timberwolves just put the beat down on the Denver Nuggets. We get a Game 7, two greatest words in sports, so that's great. But 115-70 in Game 6 can't happen. I understand. I understand. It does happen, but like, I don't know. I feel like if you're Denver, you got to put up a little bit more of an effort. You can't just bank on the fact that you have a Game 7, because as you well say all the time, it's Game 7. It means there's chaos and just everything's up in the air. And you've got a dog on the other side. I get you're at home, but you got a guy who's 22 and Anthony Edwards, who's scared of zero moments, a veteran in Mike Conley, and then players from there like Jaden McDaniels had a huge game today. So it's just, you don't want to play around with those things. When you can try to close them out as quickly as you can. But
yeah, well, what are your thoughts? I don't look at it as they banked on a Game 7 at all. I mean, I think the Timberwolves just came out and played an A+ game. And, when a team as deep and as incredible defensively as the Timberwolves are, and how much energy they play with, especially at home, that's tough to beat. So if you're down 15-20 in that situation and they're playing that desperate, it's extremely hard to go to what you want to go to. Like, I think where the series flipped for Denver, like where they got back in the series, was really just running everything through Jokic as a scorer, not just as a playmaker, but as a scorer. And we saw that, of course, in Game 5, where, you can do that when it's a 10, 8, 6-point game, or you're in the lead, or, it's a close game. But if it's 15-20 and they're playing defense like that, and you're just missing open shots, which, Denver was getting good shots in that first half. They just weren't making them. And, that's the NBA. That's basketball. It's a make or miss game. It's a make or miss league. And if you're missing shots and the other team's playing with a ton of energy, it's hard to get back. It's hard to get back at the end of the day. So I don't look at it as they were banking on a Game 7 or they were taking this game lazy, because, we'll talk about Knicks and Pacers. I expect that to happen to some degree tomorrow in that Game 6. But I don't think, Denver was honestly trying and playing hard, and they were playing great defense as well. Timberwolves were just outplaying them. So I don't view it as, them banking on a Game 7 or anything like that. But, hey, Timberwolves got to be ready, because you're going to get Denver's best shot in a Game 7. And, the role players, I doubt the Timberwolves role players are really going to play that well. I doubt even Denver. You really only need one role player to play well on each side in a Game 7. You're really only going to get 6 or 7 players on each side really getting minutes on Sunday. So I cannot wait for that game. It's going to be an incredible game. I think it's going to be, a knockout, drawn out, just a heavyweight match. I expected that tonight, honestly. And if we would have recorded this before the game, I would have told you Denver's winning tonight. I thought it would have been like a close game that maybe they pulled away at the end, or that they just flat out won. Not decisively, especially not like how the T-Wolves did tonight. But I would have took Denver going into this game. So, the fact that the T-Wolves came out the way they did and won the way they did tells you a lot about their coaching staff and how their team responds to their coaching, as well as how they're led by Anthony Edwards. And, again, their defense is just incredible. It's physical. And, yeah, you can definitely say in the second half maybe they saved some up for Game 7, especially once it got out of hand. But you could tell in that third quarter they were really trying to get back. They were trying to climb back into it. And, T-Wolves just kept hitting them with haymakers.
Game 7 is going. The legacies that can kind of like change, like things that can change. Like obviously, if Anthony Edwards comes out and has like a legendary Game 7 and they win in Denver against the defending champs, like things like that are what catapult you to being the face of the league. Like obviously we're in this weird stage where people are trying to find the face of the league and things like that, but I don't even know, those things are more natural than anything. Like LeBron naturally fell into it. Uh, then everyone, Mike obviously just fell into it kind of I mean, LeBron naturally and not naturally, because obviously he was the chosen one and all that kind of stuff. But like he was just so gifted already. But just like Game 7s just are such legacy moments for all of these players, and like what you think about in great games and these great moments. Like you think LeBron, Game 7 finals 37-12. Just there's so many great moments, and I hope this is another one of those where we can either be like Anthony Edwards Game 7 40 points, or Jokic a 35-point triple double or something along those lines. Both of them going head to head. You just love those games. So that's what I'm hoping for, and I think that's what we're going to be getting, because Timberwolves are such a great defensive team. They're not going down lightly, and then obviously the champs at home they don't want to fold. They clearly want to go back to back. They can't fold in that moment, so it's going to be a heavyweight bout, as you said. And as of this moment, I don't have a guy. I probably would lean Denver. I would probably give Denver the nod just because they are at home and they do have the MVP. But the Timberwolves absolutely can win this game.
For sure, yeah, you're gonna get the T-Wolves' best shot. Nothing ever really normal happens in a Game 7, much like the NFL playoffs. Like in those one-game situations, I've said it before. Like something, I don't know, it could be a penalty in the second quarter that just doesn't seem huge, but like you'll see how people react in that time, and it's just a completely different reaction than what you get in the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of stuff happens in a Game 7 in the NBA. Where a 10-point lead might feel like a 15 to 20-point lead, or, a Jokic triple double will just feel a little bit more like a body blow in this case, or, or an Anthony Edwards dunk might feel like more of a body blow if you're the Nuggets on the other side of it. So, no, I can't wait. It's a heavyweight fight. I think I picked Denver in 7 before the series, and
we both did.
Hey, it looked a little unsure of that when they were down 2-0. I would have bet the house that Denver would have won that Game 3. Like if you would have asked me after those first two games, I would have told you that Denver's going to win Game 3. I would have told you that I probably would have leaned Timberwolves in Game 4, and that Denver would have had to force it back from home at Game 5. They would have won that, and then they would have had to win tonight in a Game 6 to force a Game 7. But they tied it all the way up. 2 on the road, that's tough, and you flipped home court advantage back to yourself in a best of 3. And each of them held serve. So yeah, I would definitely lean Denver. They got Jokic. They need a little more from Murray.
A little.
He
more
comes in.
at least.
Hey, I mean, it comes in spurts. I mean, he's had his games. He's not shooting well. He's definitely not shooting well. But hey, I mean, in a Game 7, it don't matter really what happened in games 1 through 6. You just kind of got to show up for Game 7. He seemed to get his rhythm going a little bit. But hey, like I said, that T-Wolves defense is tough. They're so physical. They're so long. They're just a tough matchup in general for Jamal Murray and the Nuggets in general. They're literally tailor-made to beat the Nuggets. I mean, that's their former GM who built them to beat the Nuggets. So,
yeah,
they're built for this situation.
I love that Anthony Edwards is checking Jamal Murray the entire game, plus giving him work offensively. It's just, you love to see the great players in the game be two-way. Like it just gives an added bonus. Like seeing Kobe go guard Wade when you watch them play, or Kobe on LeBron guarding Derrick Rose in the playoffs when Derrick Rose was the MVP. Like those kind of things when you have your greatest players. Like obviously someone like Steph's not going to go do that because that's not his game. But when you get the great players who are great on both sides of the basketball, Kawhi Leonard's another one, for example, that can go guard your best player, then go give you 30 on the other end. It's just an added bonus to watch them, because you're like, okay, he's really giving it there. Plus he's still got the energy to go give you 30 plus.
For sure.
All right. And other series tomorrow, almost said Denver. The Knicks versus the Pacers. That's gone to Game 6. Brunson, another 40-point game. 5 of them in this playoffs. That's starting to get into legendary status for a playoff run with 40-point games. He's been. No, I'm just saying, like, it's in, but like, I mean, like a high legendary. But he's in conversations for being in a legendary playoff run, of course. Would you consider him a superstar, real quick, before we talk about this series?
I mean, all depends on your definition of a superstar. I mean, he's definitely an upper echelon New York athlete, so he's a New York superstar. I don't know if Jalen Brunson, if he came out with sneakers tomorrow, like a signature shoe, I don't know how well they would sell.
Yeah.
But he's definitely, he's definitely a top 15 player in the league. He's definitely probably the greatest Knick now of the modern era, like behind Ewing, probably. He's definitely surpassed Melo. So, of the last 20 years, definitely Jalen's number one. So he's the best Knick since Ewing. You can definitely say that. So, we'll really see in the offseason and into next season how much he translates as far as a superstar. Mm-hmm. We've had this discussion before. To me, superstar is someone like LeBron. Like, Jokic is obviously, you would say he's a superstar, right? Because he's the best player in the game. But, like, he ain't selling sneakers like Steph Curry or LeBron or Kobe at his peak or Dwayne Wade or someone like that. So, certainly a franchise player, certainly a top 15 player. I don't know about superstar. That all depends on how you define it across the board. Yeah. So
I was going to say, it depends if you're meaning just a basketball, like between the line superstar, or if you mean like a guy outside too. Because you're right.
Yeah. If we're just talking basketball, he's doing exactly everything he needs to do for his team to succeed. They need him to score, 35 to 40 a night, and he's doing it. One way or another, he's doing it, whether it's getting to the line or this or that. So
there's not, as you and I have talked about on here about superstars, there's not too many true, like, transcendent superstars in the league. And I think that word can get thrown around a little loosely just because, like, if someone's better than, like, oh, they're a star, like, they have to be a superstar. It's like, no, like, superstars are really the elites of all, like, you guys are saying LeBron, Steph, and then, like, even some players, like a lesser, but he's a superstar name, would be like Kyrie. Like, just Kyrie has that superstar, like, aura to him, even though, like, his game may not translate, like, on the court of being like, oh, he's, like, one of the top 10 players in the league, but, like, he's still a superstar. Kevin Durant, another guy who's, like, a bona fide superstar, of course. But, like, there's a small list of the people who are superstars in this league. But what are your thoughts on the series Knicks versus Pacers?
Like where it's headed or where it is right now? Like what?
Your thoughts on where it is right now, kind of like how it's unfolded, and where do you think it's headed? Do you think does you think end in 6? Do you think we're getting to a Game 7? What are your thoughts there?
I think the Knicks are winning regardless. I don't see the Pacers winning this series. They could win tomorrow night. And if they do win tomorrow night, I think it's going to be because, it's like a Game 4 situation where, all right, Indiana's outplaying us. We're going to call off the dogs a little early, get ready for Game 7. And Indiana's just not winning in New York for a Game 7. It's not happening. And especially if you're going to get this Haliburton performances, it was a classic Tyrese Haliburton cardio game in Game 5. And we'll see, if Indiana gets that from Haliburton tomorrow and maybe Siakam has an off game or something like that, the Knicks are going to go for it. You're going to get the Knicks' best shot tomorrow in the first half for sure. It's however Indiana absorbs that, however the Pacers absorb that blow, that haymaker in the first half, excuse me, that's going to depend on how the Knicks approach the second half and, how they approach the bench. Because, Josh Hart's playing 47 minutes a game in these playoffs. And I think in that blowout Game 4, I think he played like 29 minutes. I think Brunson played something like 29 minutes too. So, they're definitely – and they are going to Alec Burks a little more. They're actually trying to play 7 or 8 players now. Tibbs is. But they're going to go for it. Indiana, look, I think if the Knicks had a full squad, like if they didn't lose their whole entire bench this postseason, if they didn't lose OG, they probably would have won in 6 anyway. They might have even won in 5. Knicks are a better team, and at the end of the day, they're just going to outwork you. Josh Hart, like I said this earlier, last time we recorded, I believe, he very much reminds me, not in his game in total, but what he brings to the Knicks is very much like what Draymond brings to the Warriors with his energy and effort. In his case, his rebounding. Draymond's case, it would be his defense and his playmaking. Josh Hart can do it all, though. He'll hit you some threes. I mean, he's shooting still incredibly from the 3. He'll get you at least 10 points. He's rebounding like he's fucking Charles Barkley. And, you know, when you have that on top of Brunson and you just have that camaraderie and you just have that togetherness that the Knicks have, that goes a long way.
The Villanova
they're
swag.
just a tougher team. Yeah, the Nova Knicks. They very much remind me of the old Tibbs Bulls, too. Like, you know, when they were missing Derrick Rose, those teams still gave Miami and teams like Boston, they used to give all the teams in the East fits just because they just will outwork you. And Tibbs and Josh Hart are a match made in heaven, just like Tibbs and Jimmy Butler used to be a match made in heaven. So, you know, if it sounds like I'm talking too much about the Knicks, it's because I really don't have any faith at all in the Pacers. And that's nothing against them. I mean, they just don't play defense, and we've seen it. Just like in the Philly series, where the Knicks will just absolutely overwhelm you on the boards. I think Hartenstein had 6 first-half offensive rebounds in the last game, ended maybe in double digits, or he at least had 8. But you know, it's an insane amount on top of what Josh Hart gives you, on top of what the other 5 get you. Like, they're just gang rebounding. They're just tougher than you, and you're just not going to beat them in New York. If you're a team that's not going to match them in toughness, which Indy does not. You know, Neesmith might. You know, they got a couple guys who are about it on that team, but Miles Turner maybe. But, you know, you need your best player to be much more consistent than what Haliburton's been.
Yeah. So Haliburton this series, just going through, he's been a roller coaster. First game, 6 points, 8 assists. Second game, 34 points, 6 and 9.
Wow.
Game 3, 35, 4 and 7. Game 4, 26 and 5, 20.6 rebounds, 5 assists. And then game 5, 13, 2 and 5. So, like, are we getting 34 and 9 Haliburton? Are we getting 6-point Haliburton? Like, with him, it doesn't make sense because, like, we've seen him operate at a high level, an elite level, over multiple games. Like, clearly, as you always call him, in-season tournament Haliburton. But, like, we've seen him do that. We've seen it in the playoffs of him, like, string together these games. Like, obviously, game 2 and 3, 34 and 35. Great efficiency honestly, from the floor, plus still distributing the basketball. Like, why can't that be every night? Like, and it's not even the fact of like Luka right now. Luka obviously is hampered with his knee, whatever, but he's playing out there, so we're gonna judge him as he's playing. But
I'll talk about that later.
We can talk about that later. But like even with Luka, whatever his injuries are, he's out there playing, but like his bad games are not him being lack of aggressive. He's just not playing well. Like, and that's fine. Like, if it's because he doesn't have lift or he's just not making the right mistake, like he's just, the passes sometimes aren't there, and then the shots absolutely not there. When Haliburton's going 2 of 6 or 5 of 9, or against the Bucks 4 of 10, but then in game 3 you're going to take 26 shots, it's like, there's no reason why, I don't care who you are. In today's NBA, there's no reason why your best player shouldn't be taking at least 12 shots a game unless your team is flowing that much. 12, at least 12 shots.
That's being generous.
No, I'm being extremely generous.
And it's one thing.
I say 12.
And it's, him, it's okay because he's a point guard and he's really a pass first point guard. He could
12 shots is too much. It's too much to ask.
He could have an impact with those 12 shots.
Yeah.
My thing with him, and I said this after game 1 of the Milwaukee series, is he'll give up the ball and then he's not involved in the play whatsoever. He's not cutting. He's not trying to spot up. He's literally like out at the logo, at the sideline logo. Like he's as out of the. They're basically playing 4 on 5 after he gives up the ball. So
yep.
it's frustrating to watch. I'm not a Haliburton hater at all. I'm just pointing out what I see when it comes to him playing. And when you saw him have these explosive performances, before the in-season tournament, maybe a couple weeks after the in-season tournament, and then yes, he did get injured, but he played largely, God, I think from late January all the way through to the playoffs. Like he's playing on Team USA. Like you can't tell me he's not healthy. He's definitely at least 85 to 9. I would say 95%. He looks fast when he's dribbling. He just seems like inactive. So yeah, I don't think he's unhealthy. I don't think, it's just a matter of mentality with him. And it's surprising because again, that first 6 to 8 weeks of the season, he was putting up goddamn Magic Johnson numbers on steroids. Like it was like regularly like 34 and 13, 28 and 15. You know what I mean? He was putting monster numbers up, and then it just kind of went away.
Kyle, he averaged in the first 32 games of the season, this was before he got injured, he was averaging 24 and almost 13 assists, shooting 50% from the floor and 40 from three. There are games that he had of 22 points and 23. He had back-to-back 2020 games. Yeah. I see 33 and 10, 44 and 10, 33, 7 and 15, back-to-back game, 37 and 16. Like there was, and this is just every night against whomever you put in front of him. And then he got hurt. And then obviously you could tell he was working his way back. He probably came back a little early because he wanted to play enough games for the Warriors, whatever the case may be. But at some point, he got healthy enough that he can run downhill, and it might be nagging, but like again, if you're on the floor, we're judging you for your play. If you're that hurt, don't play. I would rather you not play. Like if Donovan Mitchell goes out there in Game 5 and Game 6 against Game 5 against Boston, and he's terrible, like I'm gonna judge him for that. Even like I'd rather him just sit out. If you're not good enough to play, just sit out. It's fine. We understand injuries happen every single postseason. Just sit out if you're not good enough. But if you are, I don't want to hear about it. Like as we're going to talk about with Luka, I am sick and tired of hearing before, if this was the regular season, he would probably be out for 2 weeks. I don't care.
Let's talk about Luka. Let
me just say this real quick.
What do you think's going on in the Pacers Knicks? I already told you.
I was about to say, let me just say real quick.
Whether it's 6 or 7, I think the Knicks are winning.
Knicks are winning this series regardless. I think that I'll know by the second quarter if the Knicks are winning or not. The Pacers are going to come out and punch them in the mouth, and it really depends on how the threes are falling.
If Haliburton plays, if he decides to cross the 3-point line, I'm pretty positive it's Knicks in 7, but if it's Knicks in 6, I'm not shocked. I'm only shocked if the Pacers win this series. Yep. Be baffled. Be truly baffled. But yes, let's move into Mavs Thunder. The Mavs are up 3-2, but I'm getting sick and tired before every game them talking about Luka. Oh, if this was a regular season, he'd be sitting out for at least 2 weeks. Frankly, I don't care. Is he playing in tonight's game? Cool. Then I'm going to judge him on how he's playing in tonight's game. He's shooting terrible from 3. He's not taking the greatest of shots. Luka ain't hurt.
But not hurt. And even if he is, I don't really care. I truly don't care. Like, he's playing basketball, and he's been playing basketball consistently. It's okay to have a little bit of a bad spell in the playoffs. It happens to everybody. He's been literally Michael Jordan up to this point. It's okay. It's okay to play bad. It's fine. Mike's had bad games. LeBron's had bad games. Steph, everybody. It's fine to be bad for a couple games. And he's still
getting his numbers. He's still getting his numbers. He's just not shooting well, specifically from 3. And I'm with you. I'm completely done. And I have been pretty much since the first round, because I think this even started in the Clippers series. But I don't want to hear anything about him being hurt, mainly because a couple things that catch my eye when I'm watching these games, and a specific quote that definitely caught my eye. I don't know if you saw the quote from Lonzo Ball that was making the rounds. Did you see this?
I did not, actually.
I don't know if he has a podcast or if it was, I don't know whose podcast it was, but he was on it, and they were asking him about his progress, and he said, if the season were going on today, I'd be playing. And he said, this very much caught my attention. He said, I'm at 70%. Obviously, I'm not 100%, but I would be playing right now. I'm at 70%. And that got me thinking, like, damn, 70 is good enough to play? Like, that really makes you think, like, what is, in terms of these players, like, what's 70, what's 75%? Like, what is 85% of 100% for some of these players, you know? So for Lonzo to say, especially after the horrific injuries and, you know, knee surgeries he's had, to say, yeah, 70% is good enough. Like, I'd be playing right now, even not at 100%. That tells me a lot. Game 5, Nuggets Wolves. I forget what play was it? Where Towns
the Karl Anthony Towns, he fell. Are you talking about that one with Towns?
He injures his knee, and he looks seriously hurt. And anytime he tried to like really explode that game, or anytime he went to the rim and finished, he was running back on D. He's running back with a gait. Like, you can tell he's not 100%. And because, like, if you're an athlete like that, or if you're someone who relies on athleticism like Towns, or has athleticism in Towns' case, you know what I mean? You're not even thinking about running. And so for him to be like really just like laboring up and down the court, you can tell he was injured. You can tell that's a player who, if that was a regular season game, he would have went to the locker room, not returned for that game, and he's probably out for the next couple of games, whatever the injury needs, right? And he looked better tonight, but, you know, that specific game, he was hurting, and that was actually one of the better Towns performances I've seen. He gutted through that, played well, and genuinely was not 100%. Luka, who I love, I'm a Luka fan. I said he should have been MVP this year, right? Luka, when stuff's not going well, you see him like grimacing and limping a little bit. And then you'll see Luka in the same breath, right? I've seen him close out hard on a guy in the corner, get in a defensive stance, get his hand, like a perfect contest. You can't do that when your knee's hurt. Not at full speed anyway. And I've seen him do that at full speed. I've seen him still get to the rim at will when he wants to. Still seen him blow by guys, right? So it seems his knee injury seems to come and go. And to me, when he's moving around or this or that or anything, looks like Luka, he's just not making the shots. He's just not making the shots. And then, yeah, I agree with you. I'm entirely sick of these commentators and these announcers like, oh, man, you can just see Luka this, or, man, if this was the regular season, like, he looks, you know, largely like Luka to me. I'm not going to put a percentage on it after we just, you know, talked about Lonzo and his percentages. I'm not going to put a percentage on it, but it looks as close to Luka as you possibly can. I'm not, you know, whereas Towns, you could see it, and I'm like, oh, that player's hurt right there. He is not 100%. He is trying to gut his way through this game and, you know, earn it for his team. Luka, it seems like an excuse to fall back on because he's not shooting well, because he's not playing well. So, no. And then what Luka do last night? Goes out and carries them to a victory, has a good scoring performance, and then
31, 10, and 11, 12 of 22, 5 of 11 from three. Is his second game all playoffs where he actually shot well from three. Like, this playoff run, we clearly saw him average 34, 9, and 9 in the regular season. He's averaging 27, 9, and 9 now. He's shooting 41% from the floor and 28% from three. He's shooting 10 a game, but pretty much making 2 to 3 of them. And, like, he's just not playing well. And it's okay. It really is okay. I just don't care to hear about him being hurt. Because if he's that hurt, please don't play. I would rather you not play. Rest up. It's okay. It's fine. Get him next time. You're young. You're young. You can get him next time. But speaking of the Mavericks, who are up 3-2, I like the way their team has been playing. Daniel Gafford's been giving them good minutes. Lively has been playing some pretty solid minutes off the bench. PJ Washington didn't shoot well last game, but he's been great otherwise. He rebounded the ball great last game. Derek Jones Jr. shot the ball great, especially early on in that game. And then Kyrie has been the ultimate point guard. Like, he's been controlling the games early and then late, looking for a shot and getting going there when he needs to. Because it reminds me of kind of a
hasn't really got going though. He hasn't had that great of a series.
No, he hasn't had a great series scoring wise. He's been playing well. It reminds me of when Wade when he's had 45 against Boston in Game 4 back in 2009. The season 2009-2010, the season right before they got LeBron. He said at half that it was like, I'm getting other people involved because I know I can get my shot whenever I need to. And like obviously the greats can clearly do that, and Kyrie is one of those great scorers who can get his shot when he needs to. So I like the way he's been playing because he's been given a lot of effort defensively. He's been a facilitator, and then when he's needed to, he's gotten buckets. As you said, he hasn't been playing like shooting the greatest this series. Obviously, we saw him shoot better in the Clippers series, but he has been when he's then needed to get a bucket here and there. He can do that. And the Thunder wise, Shea's really been the one who's shown up, and from there it's been spotty at best from their role players. Like you might get a Chet game, you might get a Jalen Williams game. Other Jalen Williams off the bench has been playing pretty solid, but like Lou Dort might be hitting or missing. But like really, it's been Shea, and then like hope someone else comes along, and you were hoping from a little bit more from this cast, but. Game 6 is coming up here. If Luka, they haven't been playing bad. It's just like obviously the Mavs have outplayed them a little bit. We'll see what Game 6 is going to bring. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how this Thunder team's built. They really are a young, deep, talented team, right? So they kind of do it by committee outside of SGA. So I'm not really too surprised by that. And they're bringing it on defense. I thought largely they've outplayed Dallas most of the series. I thought the Thunder would have won last night, and that Dallas, the pressure would be on Dallas, and maybe we get that performance from Luka in Game 6, and then we get a Game 7. Now I think all pressure obviously is shifted to the Thunder, and look, if you get another Luka performance like that tomorrow, is it tomorrow or no? Saturday they play. You get another performance like that from Luka on Saturday, it's going to be really hard for the Thunder. Again, like you said, unless the role players show up, which is harder on the road. So. I do like how the Thunder have played overall. I do. Yeah,
they played hard. They get a lot of fight.
Their defense is great. They play hard. They play together. They clearly, like we said, they're giving Luka fits. They're giving Kyrie all kinds of fits. Really. So the fact that the Mavs are in this position while really not getting anything scoring wise out of Kyrie, like you said, Kyrie's playing well as far as a facilitator. He's controlling the game well. He's even playing really good defense. He's been a good leader for them. He really has. But if Luka's back and he's feeling good and he's back in form, it's going to be tough for the Thunder. But the Thunder are built for it. I will say that. But they needed last night's game because it's going to be extremely tough to win in Dallas in the Game 6. And even if Luka's not rolling, he's still going to at least get to 25. And, like we said, Kyrie's not scoring the ball. Guess what? Guess when he's bound to score the ball in a Game 6 at home. Right? Like it's bound to happen. He's not going to go all 7 games, scoring 8 to 10 points, which is probably what around he's averaging right now in this series. So, I mean, it's bound to happen. So if you get a double helping of, what they're supposed to be, which is, getting killed on ISOs by Luka and Kyrie, and you're getting 3-point shooting, PJ Washington's averaging over 20 points a game in the series. He's been shooting the lights out largely. So if you get that, on top of, again, like just an average Luka game, and he's not really laboring and not missing his 3-point shot, he can really get his 3-pointer going like he did in Game 5. Yeah, it's going to be a long night for the Thunder. So I'm leaning for the Mavs to wrap it up in 6, but you never know. Thunder are built for it. They'll give it their best shot. So I'm very interested to see what SGA and crew does, but I'm leaning towards the Mavs.
Yeah, I have the Mavericks in 6. Before the series, I had the Mavs in 6. Wouldn't have been shocked if it got to 7, but still had the Mavs. But Mavericks in 6 is what makes sense here. If Shea's got to get another 30-point game, which seems like he lives at 30-plus in the series. I mean, he has all season. And they need someone else to give him 20-plus. Could be Chet. He's been kind of hovering around there. Jalen Williams obviously has that capability. He averaged close to that this season. We'll see. Or maybe you get a role player who hits 4 or 5 threes, but they need someone else to join along.
They just got to get their 3-point shot going. If they can get some stuff by committee and just really get some threes to fall, because the Mavs are going to keep bombing them. They're going to keep shooting. They're going to try to keep getting PJ shots and Tim Hardaway Jr. And again, Kyrie. Eventually, Kyrie's going to start really shooting the ball. So
last closeout game, he had 30 against the Clippers. So.
Right. So, I mean, it's bound to happen. So if you can shoot with them, which, would be one of the Thunder weaknesses, right, is consistent 3-point shooting. If they can get 15 to 18 threes, they'll definitely be in it. And then you'll have SGA's 30 on top of that. So, we'll see. we'll see what happens.
Yes, and
I do want to say,
go on.
I saw this. I meant to mention this last week, but regarding Luka's injury, I saw on Twitter, would have been like 2 weeks ago now. It was during the Clippers series, maybe going into games 4 or 5. I don't remember. But there was a Twitter doctor who was looking at a picture of Luka from one of their practices, and his right knee was taped up. And I don't remember the exact quotes here. I'm paraphrasing, but the doctor said how Luka's knee is taped up is like nonsense. Like you would never, if his injury is what they're saying it is, or what they're trying to say it is, like basically a knee sprain. He's like, you would never in a million years tape it up like that. Like that's just nonsense. And I think he was also commenting on how he was walking, but in essence, he was saying, I don't think he's that hurt, was his essence. So, or, the nuts of what he was saying. So I thought that was interesting. And again, I mean, that's kind of, what I alluded to earlier. That's what I've seen from him is like, he'll have these bursts of explosion or, whether it's defense or offense, he'll just have these bouts of explosion here and there. So, he doesn't seem too hurt to me, but I already said that a couple times, but I just want to reiterate that. And I meant to mention that last week. So, but
no, absolutely. And we don't really get to talk about it much because they've played a depleted Heat team and then they played a little bit of a depleted Cavs team. Obviously, Jared Allen missed early. Then you had Karis LeVert and Donovan Mitchell missing late. But Boston-wise, you presume the Knicks are getting to the conference finals. Do you have problems, or do you think that the Celtics will have problems without Porzingis throughout that series, or do you feel like Boston should be able to handle them with the depleted Knicks that they have? They're going to be getting.
I mean, first of all, I assume Porzingis will be back at some point during that series.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, maybe game 3. I don't really know how he's coming along, but I would guess he'd be back for the conference finals. I mean, I think the Celtics will get through. I really do. I mean, first of all, I want to give props to the Cavs. The Cavs really impressed me with and without Donovan Mitchell, how they fought. I think JB Bickerstaff's one of the coaches people would just kind of point to because he seems to be a quieter coach that people would be like, yeah, he's going to get out of there. And, Coach Bud's now with the Suns, but, that would be maybe a Coach Bud landing spot. Maybe 2 weeks ago, people would talk about.
Bickerstaff makes me laugh before you go on, just because I think of all the 2K generic coach, and then I always just think of JB Bickerstaff.
Yeah, they used to, they used to like throw him on as like a generic coach, right?
They just threw him on as the generic coach, and then he became a coach, and I was like, he's just a 2K guy, but then he actually proved to just be like a good coach, so he just makes me laugh.
I mean, his guys seem to play hard for him. Like the fact that they played that hard in the 2 games without Donovan Mitchell, and it was on short notice. I mean, to us at least, that Donovan Mitchell wasn't playing, especially before game 4, shows a lot. Like Mobley switching to the 5, he played very well. He showed some promise. And the way Donovan Mitchell played, like I was not expecting to play that committed, which is silly because he's a big time playoff performer and he's always been, right? So, the way he performed even in this Boston series, the short time we had him in the series, was fun to watch. And I saw something about that he is planning to stay long term. You never really know what is true and what's not true in the NBA offseason or when it comes to that sort of scuttlebutt. But, if he is staying and you could trade, let's say, Jared Allen and Garland, like you could get something great back and then build around Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley. And you've already got a good team there. And, I kind of underestimated them. You could genuinely say, if you're a Cavs fan, that if you got Donovan Mitchell, like, oh, maybe that's a 6-game series. And then who knows? We got that extra game at home and, who knows? I still think maybe it would have went 5, but they definitely looked the part more than I thought. And they didn't give up. They didn't, hang on the fact that Jared Allen was injured. And they certainly didn't even hang on the fact that Donovan Mitchell was injured. They were very competitive in games 4 and 5 without Donovan Mitchell. So big props to the Cavs. I don't want to get too much into the Celtics and Knicks because we'll talk about that next week.
Of course.
After this weekend, we'll be talking about that. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the Cavs-Celtics series from what you saw?
Cavs-Celtics, I think the Cavs obviously have something. Donovan Mitchell always has been said he can go up against any superstar and match them point for point, shot for shot, because he's just that good of a player. He's a guy When I was talking before last year when I did my whole ranking, there's guys who can be the best player on a championship team, and then their second best player can be lesser. Like Steph can be the best, and you can have a lesser in Clay or Draymond. LeBron can be the best, he can have a lesser, and then whatever. But Donovan Mitchell feels like if he's going to win a championship, he needs to have someone like kind of like a 1A, 1B, if that makes sense to what I'm saying. Like he's not going to be the guy who's just going to carry you to a championship, but he can be in series like the best player on a championship team, but he may not, but he has to have someone else with there that's kind of at like the same level as him, rather than you have like your star, you have a superstar and then like a secondary star that's beneath him, if that makes sense. But anyways, with me saying that, I think that the Cavs can absolutely build, if he stays, they definitely could possibly move Garland, unless he does take a next step, but possibly either move Garland, move Jared Allen. Hopefully the maturation of Evan Mobley offensively can happen, because defensively we know what he is. They can get a third guy in there. Obviously Paul George is being floated around a lot of places. He would fit perfectly there. And then they can kind of see how things are going to roll from there. But their offseason's interesting. I would keep JB. I don't think there's anything about this season where you have to really cut. You ran into the best team in the Eastern Conference and what might be the best team in all of basketball with a depleted roster, and you played them very tough for 5 games. I don't think you really can hate on that, especially getting to the second round.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about next step. It's Mobley that's got to take the next step. I mean,
Absolutely.
He'd kind of been just in the same lane these last 3 years, like didn't really make a leap yet. And he kind of made that leap in this series, especially the last 2 games. Really, this whole series, I should say, actually. And Garland, he's a player we've seen with Donovan Mitchell, take that next step. Like he's put up real numbers even beside Donovan Mitchell. And it seems like since he got back from his injury this year, that he became less aggressive. And that fit just doesn't seem to make sense anyway. They're 2 undersized guards. Donovan Mitchell's like a true 6'1". He plays bigger than that. And he's obviously, crazy athletic, but he's someone you can just give the ball to like a Jalen Brunson and, let him be the combo guard. So Darius Garland's not really necessary. So if you could trade him and Jared Allen, and you don't necessarily need to get rid of Jared Allen, but Mobley can be a true 5 clearly. If you could get rid of those 2 and just, I don't know who that third person would be, but it would bring you a lot. It would bring you a couple players. You already got an okay bench, and they'll continue to build. I really like what they're doing, and I'd really love it if Donovan Mitchell stayed. I think it would be very interesting, because they clearly have something there. The fact that your players fight that well or that hard for your coach, even with, as you said, a depleted roster, and you got someone like Donovan Mitchell who's a true franchise player, a true bucket getter when it comes to these playoffs. You already got the building blocks there. So that's a team I'm very interested in this offseason, with or without Donovan Mitchell. And, if the reports are true that he is trying to stay, that's huge for them. That's huge for them. They got truly, like, they could be a conference finals team next year. But, as we see, this East is already loaded. Loaded. So,
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. I think someone that could fit on that roster too would be Mikal Bridges. Just a guy 6'6", can score, can shoot, can defend, could go alongside Donovan Mitchell well. I think you can maybe package Garland. I don't even know if you have to package Jared Allen with that, but Garland and some other things from Mikal Bridges, I think could be
Jared Allen
an interesting. I think it could be an interesting trade that they could do. Obviously, there's plenty of moves out there, and I love to play fantasy GM and put trades together. But I think Mikal Bridges in Cleveland would work really well alongside Donovan.
I do want to defend Jayson Tatum a little bit. I saw your clip from your Believe podcast about Jayson Tatum, and
over the last 2 games, he heard it, because over the last 2 games he's played great.
No shade here. I think I called you Stephen A. or I called you Skip Bayless when you had your Caitlin Clark clip, or your Caitlin Clark discussion, the Mount Rushmore. I'm gonna call you ESPN Keenan with that, with the face of the league, Jayson Tatum, that one, because I don't think Jayson Tatum was playing entirely that bad. I thought he was actually playing good basketball, even up until these last couple games. He wasn't shooting the ball well, much like Luka. He wasn't shooting the ball well from 3, but inside the arc, still shooting the ball well, getting to the line well, rebounding very well, over 10 rebounds a game, 5 assists a game. So he's playmaking, he's aggressive, he's getting his shots up. He just wasn't really shooting well for three. I think he's averaging 23 or 24 a game. He past 3 years been averaging like 27. So I mean, you want to talk about percentage? He was like 95% of Jayson Tatum, much like Luka's been 95% of himself, just not shooting the ball well. So I thought that was a little harsh.
I think it was less than 95. I mean, I explained more in the entire thing. I clipped up,
sure.
but like I explained more in the entire thing. At that point he was averaging 23, like 10 and 4. He was shooting not good from the floor and not good from three, not that great from the floor and not great from three. Obviously, not shooting great from three is going to bring down your field goal percentage. So it wasn't that he was like a lack of effort, or
because he's shooting well. He's shooting well from two, and he's playing like
I never questioned his effort or anything. I just think that but again, also at the same time here too, because I said moving forward, being put in situations to where they're going to need him more. They haven't really needed him all that much, too. He hasn't been playing the greatest, but they haven't also needed him all that much. When you play in the conference finals, I think you'll need him more against New York. And then in the finals, you'll definitely need him against whomever you play in the finals, because whoever comes out of the West is going to be more than a formidable opponent. You'll absolutely need Jayson Tatum to step up and play. And as I said, things change, and obviously as it goes. But other than say, the whole thing makes more sense. But
I see. But even up to that point, he'd only really had like 2 or 3 questionable games. I think he had a couple games under 20 points. Like everything was there. The defense was there. It was really just the 3-ball. And I think where I took, because I mean, look, no one likes to hate on the Celtics more than me, even as a alleged Celtics fan. But I mean, I actually like the way Tatum's been playing. And you use, and this is the ESPN part of it. You use the word folding, and you were talking about face of the league, and I'm like, I don't really think players go into games or series talking or thinking about being the face of the league. So
no, but
that's where I thought it was a little ESPN-y.
But I would say face of the league. I mean, I don't more so mean that he thinks he's going in like, oh, I've got to be the face of the league, but I think he definitely goes in wanting to be great. I think as Jayson Tatum being a great player, I hope he wants to be great going into games, and seeing Anthony Edwards being great, and seeing Jalen Brunson be great, and seeing Shea being great should make you want to play great as a great player.
I think he wants to win more than anything. So he
does want to win. For them to win, he needs to be great. I think all great players want to be great, but they also want to win. But they should know them being great is going to make them win. Kobe knows, okay, if I'm great, we're going to win. Shaq knows if I'm great, we're going to win. Steph knows if I'm great, I'm going to win. LeBron, the same thing. So you want to be great.
For sure.
But you also want to win. That's kind of.
But they also, I get what you're saying. But also, like, they're very much a strength in numbers team. They don't necessarily need a 27-point outing from Tatum to win. They don't need, 35 from Tatum to win. They're a strength in numbers team. They got Jaylen Brown, he can give you 25. He's given you 25 a few times this playoffs. You could get that for Porzingis. You can get that, you want to talk about physical defense, Holiday and Derek White. And Derek White's averaging 20. He's uptick. So where Tatum's gone down in the 2 baskets, he's not averaging or had in the previous 3.
Derek White's stepped up in the entire. I mean, he did last year too. Played phenomenal in the playoffs.
And you got to figure with Tatum, and this is not making excuses. This is just true. When you're the best player, you're going to get that extra defensive, look, right? You're going to send extra help. So, where my issue is with Tatum is when he can just get to I'm going to take 8 dribbles into a step back 3. I don't love that from Tatum at all. But I haven't seen a ton of that really this playoffs. He'll get into that mode, especially when he's searching for it, or especially when they get into a slump as a team. But I think overall, I've liked how he's played. I think he's played smart. I think he's played calm, cool. I'm very interested to see how they play against the Knicks, assuming it is the Knicks. If it's the Pacers, that's a sweep. I'll just go ahead and say that right now. But
they might get one. They might, and that's if they have one of those. That's if
Haliburton
Knicks
again
game
crosses.
4. I think it was where they just had the bonanza.
That's if Haliburton can cross the 3-point line on offense. If he makes it a point to get past his initial defender and then maybe get to the foul line and put some pressure on the defense, they could probably win a couple games if they wanted to. But hey, it's all what Haliburton
I'd have
wants to
Celtics
do.
in 5. I'd give the Pacers 1 because I think they can run on you enough and get enough threes. I mean, we've seen Cleveland get one depleted. We saw the Heat get hot and win one. I think the Pacers could win one.
Heat got abnormally hot.
I mean, that's Heat culture.
Heat got abnormally hot, and they can play defense. I mean, the defense didn't really matter in the Celtics series, but they got abnormally hot in that game. And then the game the Cavs won, they just outplayed the Celtics.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is all hypothetical. Again, neither of us think the Pacers are winning, but Pacers don't play enough defense for me to think they could win one. I think they'd get swept up. And again, especially if you're guaranteeing me in 2 of those games, I'm getting a Haliburton 10-point game. They're not going to win. They're just not.
Oh, no. Like, listen, it's game 3 or game 4 on their home floor, and they get collectively hot from 3, which we've seen happen more than once in these playoffs. If that doesn't happen, them getting swept is something that doesn't shock me at all. But what's good for the Celtics in this sense is their run, they haven't really been tested yet, and they've had time to rest. Mm-hmm. Like, obviously, not that they haven't been playing any tough games at all. Obviously, the Cavs have played them as tough as he possibly can. The Heat played them as tough as he possibly can. Those are 2 teams that are going to play 48 minutes of strong basketball. But each 5-game series, they've taken care of business. They've done what they've needed to do. Obviously, they're going to see either a Pacers team, as we both don't think they can do more than 5 games, if that, and then a Knicks team that's depleted, that probably won't have OG, doesn't obviously have Mitchell Robinson, and of course doesn't have Julius Randle because they've been missing him since, I think, January or something like that.
They did say they think OG would be back for that series if they advance.
He'd be back fully? Okay. Because I know he's been obviously a question mark, so OG being back for that would make that definitely a tougher series. You'd have multiple bodies to throw at Jayson Tatum up, but the Celtics are very deep. I would give the Celtics probably in 6 against the Knicks, but we'll talk about that more when we see exactly is OG back. And I mean, the Knicks need to get there because they obviously have a game 6 that they're playing tomorrow against the Pacers in Indiana. They got to win that. If not, win game 7 back in Madison Square. But so just to recap it really quick, because obviously, like, by the next time we do a podcast, 2 of these series could be over. That's already still playing. If not, all 3 of them possibly could be over. I have Mavs in 6, Nuggets in 7, and I have the Knicks in probably 7. Would not shock me at 6. And then I think you're the same about.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Mavs on Saturday. Mavs in 6. You know, and same thing with the Knicks and Pacers series. It all depends on what Pacers seed we get in that first half. And if they build up any sort of sizable lead, I think the Knicks are going to call off the dogs early.
Yep.
And then they're not winning at the Garden in game 7. It's just not happening. And then Nuggets Timberwolves, that's a coin flip, and I'm going to lean Denver. Home team. They got game 5. They still got Jokic. Anthony Edwards, is going to put up a fight. I like the way Towns is playing. He's definitely improved. They got Big Jelly too. Nas has been doing his thing. Jaden McDaniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They got Conley back. Like, it's gonna be a heavyweight fight. I can't wait. I cannot wait. Give me a true prediction. Like, give me a score. Give me some stat lines, maybe. Like, give me something from that game, because that's the one game 7 we're for sure getting.
Ant has 30 plus. I think you have a good Conley game, someone who's been in multiple playoff series and situations like this. Jokic, at least a 25-point triple-double, if not 30. And then one other guy goes along with him. I don't know who. There's going to be one role player that gets hot from 3 for them, and they win the game about 102 to 96. Something like that.
I think it's very low scoring. I don't think it gets to 100 on either side.
Fair.
I'm going to say 92-88 Nuggets. I'm going to say a huge Jokic game. I'm going to say Jamal Murray returns to form for this game. And if you gave me the one role player who's really going to give them minutes, I'm going to say Christian Brown.
Christian Brown. I think and role player even means like Caldwell Pope or something along those lines. I think there's going to be one guy who gets hot from three. It could be Porter Jr. because he hasn't really exploded for a game in this series yet.
He's had a bad series.
He hasn't had a great. This is coming off a Lakers series where he couldn't have been more red hot. So I think, I'm going to just say Jokic 25-point triple-double in Porter 4 threes. I think Porter gets hot in this game.
They would need it. If you get a good Porter Jr. game and then even 15 to 20 from Jamal Murray and just your team in general, whoever's on the court are is shooting the ball well, that should be enough.
He's the one that takes them over the top. Like obviously Jamal Murray Jokic is Jokic. Jamal Murray makes them a tough out anytime, obviously. And then when they have Porter hitting threes at that clip that he can hit threes, that's really when they almost become unbeatable. Like you have to play an A+ game to beat them at that point. Because Porter Jr. just hits everything and you never can affect his shot because he's 6'10" and elevates. So, yeah. But I don't know if you have any other thoughts on the game or any other thoughts on anything.
What do you think about, did you listen to one of your favorite artists, Childish Gambino? He dropped a new album or like revised a new album, like I think the day after your birthday. By the way, happy belated. Shouts to you. Big 27. Did you listen to that album? Like what
No, I haven't gotten a chance to really listen to much of anything. So I have not listened to Childish Gambino's revamp of said album. I haven't heard anything really even about it, to be quite honest with you. So I have not, but I definitely will be listening within the next probably in the next day, and we'll see what I think about it. But no, I have not listened to Childish Gambino. I've listened to still a lot of this Kendrick and Drake for Beef, and then Chance the Rapper's come out with a couple new songs that they're only dropped on YouTube that I've listened to, and when we have that's a weird career right after the big day. Since the big day, he's been.
I saw he was supposed to be dropping a song with DJ Premier tonight, maybe. But I don't know.
Yeah,
I haven't looked at.
I don't know. Is that
what's actually released?
I don't know if that's the song that already released. Possibly.
Let me together. So that just dropped.
Yeah, together. Yeah, 2 days ago, dropped together. Okay, yeah, he dropped "Buried Alive" 3 weeks ago, and then dropped "Together." So like, he's back. He's getting back into just dropping a few songs here and there. Like he's dropped songs here and there, but he hasn't dropped a project. And I don't know. Was he that upset with the big day response that he just decided to take a?
Well, I think this is post-divorce Chance. Ever since his divorce has been public, he's
that's true. We'll see. We'll see how he is, but
I cannot wait to pod and react to the late series games, the Game 7, the Game 6s. Ideally, all three or the other two go to Game 7 as well.
Yeah,
3 Game 7s.
Game 7 in Madison Square Garden is going to be an electric atmosphere.
Yeah, the Pacers will.
They'll make sure Reggie's calling the game just because.
Also, shouts to Obi Toppin for doing the through the legs dunk in the postseason.
Yeah,
the East Bay, that's just insane to do. And I know he's done a couple games already, but playoffs, that's a sick guy. Just thinking about that, I all right, I'm gonna go through the legs in the game.
Yeah, right, just in case. Like, what if you mess up? So no, I agree with that 100%.
But this was the Warner Brothas Podcast. Thank you for listening. Feels good to be back. You can catch us on YouTube, catch us on Instagram, catch us on TikTok at Warner Brothas Podcast. I'm Kyle. This was Keenan. We will be back reviewing these games. I got a lot of NFL thoughts. NFL schedule release. I'm scared to death of the Patriots schedule. But
Netflix. At least it's not the Steelers' last 7 games. The Steelers have the toughest stretch of football I've seen in a long period of time.
Interesting. You're bound to have that schedule with that division.
Oh, absolutely.
You're bound to have that schedule.
They go from like the Bengals to the Browns to the Bengals again to the Ravens to the Chiefs. 2 games in 4 days. Like their stretch to end this season is one of the
They have two
most
games
brutal
in 4 days. Oh,
It's
a Sunday,
Saturday
Thursday.
and Wednesday. That's a Saturday like Wednesday, and they play the Ravens at Baltimore, and then they play the Chiefs. It's one of the most.
They've got a Saturday, Wednesday set up
Yes,
because they play on Christmas. That's one of the most ridiculous things I've heard. Honest to God, that's terrible.
Yeah.
There's actually no need for that. It'd be one thing if you scheduled them the previous Saturday and then they get a mini bye and then you play that Wednesday. There's no reason at all with the amount of teams, the amount of weeks, with how you can schedule games that you should end up with a Saturday to Wednesday game, which I guess is the same as a Sunday to Thursday, but I don't know.
Yeah, because they play the Ravens by the looks of it on a Sunday. Then this is the last 8 games, and we can be done here. But they play the Ravens in Pittsburgh on Sunday. Then that Thursday they play the Browns. They get 10 days, and then they play the Bengals. Then they play the Browns. Then they play the Eagles. Then they play the Ravens on Saturday, turn around and play the Chiefs on Christmas Day on Wednesday, and then finish against the Bengals. My Lord. What a schedule.
Yeah, as of today, that sounds like a gauntlet. It really does. You mentioned Netflix. How do you feel about that with like the Netflix games, the Peacock games? There's obviously already been games on Amazon Prime every Thursday. So how do you feel about all these streaming games?
I think that I get it because I want to touch every platform. I think it's Netflix I'm okay with just because like everybody has it or like everyone has easy access to it. It's like the Peacock games are like, what are we doing? Like no one wants to get Peacock just for that. I mean, I will because it's football, so I'm going to get it. But like I don't want to get it. So I get what they're doing to try to get more. Now I get what these platforms are doing to be like, hey, people are going to come to our platform and then whatever. But like I don't love it, but I mean, it's the NFL, so they can kind of do what they want.
Yeah, I mean, I get it from the platform's perspective. They're doing what they should be doing. But
Yeah,
from the
absolutely.
NFL's perspective, I mean, they already make more money than God. You're going to get obscene amount of eyeballs if your games are just on CBS, Fox, NBC, whatever. Like, everyone's got those basic cable channels. Like, you're already good. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. It seems greedy on the NFL's part, but it was bound to happen.
It just seems unnecessary, to be quite honest with you, to put it on Netflix. Like, what?
It does seem like the NBA is going to go to NBC instead of TNT, which could mean the end of Inside the NBA. I personally don't think that'll happen. I think they'll work it out somehow. I don't know how that'll be. Whatever. But
I think they said Ernie's staying with TNT though, regardless. So like,
who knows? I've also heard that TNT could go under. And there's a lot of people where there's people who work for specific networks who still do like contribute to other networks too. So I don't think it's the end of Inside the NBA. I'd be very surprised if, after the conference finals, that's the very last we see the 4 of those guys together. I mean, that's the greatest post-game show, studio show, whatever of all time. There's no way. There's no way.
And they're all in their like quote unquote prime in the sense of like there's not like they're getting over the hill or old or anything to where they need to just be done. Like they all are still giving great content, great analysis, and great humor along with that. So it's not like they're like, man, they're on their last leg. Like they're in their prime of their show. Like just move them somewhere else or someone else. ESPN pick them up. Like I don't like Stephen A, Malika, Wilbon, Perk, Zach Lowe, Bob ESPN, Myers. You guys are really cool.
We can't have them on ESPN. We can't have Charles and Shaq under the Disney umbrella because we wouldn't even get all the inside jokes on them.
That's
so
true. That's true.
I wish in an ideal world we would have got ESPN all the way the fuck out of here and it would have been TNT and NBC. That would have been ideal because I mean I think I could do a whole podcast on how I think ESPN has ruined, basketball talk, since the decision really. But, I mean, NBC, the fact that they're getting the NBA, if that's true, it's going to be amazing. Like TNT does a great job. I think they do a good job of making games feel bigger than ESPN. But NBC, if it's anything like the 90s and early 2000s, like it's going to be, how you feel about Sunday Night Football, that's how those Tuesday and Thursday nights and maybe those Sunday night games that they'll be getting, they're going to feel amazing. And especially if they get a lot of the TNT guys to come over to NBC, which that's what I feel bad about, because Candace and Jamal Crawford and all like that group,
Draymond,
they were getting in their bag. Draymond.
Wish Dwayne Wade would come back and do more because he was great when he was on.
Dwayne Wade was a natural. Like, Jamal Crawford's doing really well in the playoffs. He has a good feel for like pointing certain things out in games, or what, this team or that team is talking about at this moment, or what this player's think. Like, he's doing a really good job of that, which you haven't heard from players or, commentators or color commentators in quite a long time. Because, seems like they've all been out of the league for 10 to 15 years. So
I'd love for
I
Candace
hope all those
to start
guys
doing that. Like, often, now that she's retired, I would like for Candace to get into that. I mean, I love her in the analysis too.
And she seemed to be doing it more mid-season. So, yeah, she wasn't a part of their playoff crew, but I think she would be next year had TNT kept it. But hopefully all of them move to NBC, or even get picked up somewhere, or go to ESPN if it's Candace and Jamal. But inside the NBA, we need them somewhere, even if it's a streaming platform that picks them up just for strictly post-game, halftime, all that. That'd be super dope.
Yep.
Last thing, and maybe we'll save it for next time. Want to save WNBA for next time because they just opened up their season. So
yeah, because also we'll have again Saturday. We've got Fever versus Liberty. Caitlin Clark's had a tough first two games. I've spoke on that. Yeah, we can. I've spoken on that too on the Believe show as well. I had a whole WNBA pod on that one.
Only thing I will say is, Caitlin had her second game today, right? That was her second career game. It was
9 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, first one at home.
And I've seen the increase of WNBA talk on social media, especially the last 4 years, I would say. But man, people are talking like they follow this shit like they do the NBA. I saw people talk about Caitlin like, oh, this ain't college anymore. This is the league now. I'm like, hold up. I know some of you really are watching the WNBA like that. But all of you who are getting on Caitlin, I know all of you ain't watching the WNBA like that. So it's funny to see. It's great to see. And again, that's how you know this shit is really arriving, when you just got, I don't want to say casuals, because I would be a casual WNBA fan. But when you got, people who are just talking shit just to talk shit and just to hate on Caitlin, that's when you know they're really arriving.
Yeah,
so,
I was gonna say I've been watching it, as Kyle, you well know, I've been watching the WNBA for a long period of time now. So like a lot of these players
did you get League Pass?
I have not. I haven't needed it yet because there's free streaming for the first little bit. That's kind of the same thing as like the NBA does. So I've been able to watch these games regardless. So I haven't gotten it yet, but I'm going to. It's $34.99, so it's like it's not even like really a thought. I'm just gonna go get it. But yeah, a lot. I could have a whole hour and a half on a WNBA podcast and talking about the league that's going to be this year. Truly excited on it.
I'll say this. I'm going to segue this. It's going to be a beautiful segue. I'm very sad about us not following through and getting a WNBA league. I am pretty upset about that, but there's always next year. Segue. Congrats on becoming officially the fantasy commissioner of our league, a league of dysfunction. Say more your league. I'm just a rookie in this now. I'm a second year. Once the official league year hits in the draft in August, but congrats to you. Big congrats. Big move for the African American community with you being commissioned. So, congrats.
African American commissioner. It's crazy, I know.
So, all right. We're gonna get out of here again. This is my second time signing off. This was Kyle and Keenan. This was the Warner Brothas Podcast. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Check us out. Watch our clips. Go watch the videos. Go listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts if you want to do that too. We're on there as well. So, peace. Keenan, good talking to you. Can't wait to review these games. Maybe Monday, maybe Sunday. You will see us one of those 2 days for sure. We're out of here.
Like a man.